We'll start with cookies. So we have already seen the cookies part in our when we were actually learning session state and application state, right? But we haven't actually seen how HTTP cookie works, right? So basically, cookies are storage parts, which are normally client storage parts, where you can actually save small amount of information in it actually, right? So when I say client storage, which means whoever is browsing the site, right? They can we can actually enable our site to save some cookies in that native browser, right? And it depends on browser to browser because some browsers may have support to cookies, some browsers may not have. But all of the browsers, modern browsers, whatever we are using in nowadays, right? They all have support to cookies, right? First thing is that a browser should have support to cookies, and secondly, that should be enabled for sure. If your cookies are disabled, because we can always disable a cookie, so then even then your cookies concept may not work. So first, let's see how cookie works in ASP.NET, right? And how it actually can be handled when cookies are cookies are actually not supported or cookies are disabled, and we'll see how to disable it. Fine. So here let me go to closer. So let me create a new project as such. So let me call it as maybe data hack. Let me make it as a startup. Let me create a page here. Let me create another page. So we have two pages, page 1 and page 2, right? So here let me just take a text box and a button. Right? So here you have design. So text box, let's call it as maybe txt name, right? And you have button. So let me just button call it as something go to page, right? And let's call it as BTM click something. So we have text box and a button. So what we are going to do is, so let's say we are going to navigate from our current page to page 2, but we want to carry the data whatever we are providing here through the cookie, right? And we'll see how to persist that cookie and all different types of cookies and all later, right? So let's double click on this. So here in button click, right? What we are going to do, firstly, we are going to navigate to page 2. Now, first, how can we navigate? We can navigate through your request, right? We have some response redirect page 2 now. So anyways, we'll go to page 2. So in page 2, let's say we just type it as now in my page 1, what I'm going to do is I want to persist the data, which is the text box name whatever I'm providing, and that name I want to move it to the page 2. Now here I want to use cookie. So in order to use cookies, we have something called HTTP right? So this is a class we have, which is under you can see system.web, which is a HTTP cookie, right? Which will be saved in your native browser, right? And this cookie will work when if you browser support, and it is a. Let's see how we can actually create a cookie and access that cookie in page. Now here let me create a cookie as something. Now for every you can have any number of cookies, right? Because if you can see, let's take an example of some, like let's say Gmail or Facebook or few sites, right? They actually enable you to remember username and password, different stuffs in your browser, right? So they normally save your username and password in cookies. So whenever your page reopens, right, so the data will be persisted and will be loaded to your username and password text box, and that's the reason why it will be directly redirected to or logged into your site directly, right? Whenever your data, username and password is already saved, and if you are trying to remember your credentials, right, it will be saved internally. Now each and every cookie will be saved differently, right? Because your Gmail, and when you are saving your username and password, right, the cookie should be exclusively different when you have a Facebook login, right? They can't be saved the same cookie, which means cookies are exclusive. Now when your cookies are exclusive, your cookie names will be different, right? So let's say this is something called like site cookie or something called site. I'm just taking an example that the cookie name is some site, right? Which means you have created a cookie which is exclusive from other cookies you have. And then now you can actually start creating your variables in cookie, right? So here I can create something called name as my cookie variable whose value is my txt to name dot text, right? So whatever I'm actually providing uh, in my text box, right, I'm actually making sure that the key is saved. Now, so this is something where you have actually made a cookie. But what we have to do is we have to actually make sure that this cookie is added to our response, right? So in order to add, you have your response dot something called cookie. You have pieces. You have cookies dot add, or you can add your cookie. Now this will make sure that you cookie whatever you have created and what all the key values you have actually inserted, right, are persisted across the next response. Right? So this will stay till next page until unless you close your page, right? Your cookie will be live, or the cookie will be active. So and this cookie will stay till your browser is active, which means till your browser is open, the cookie will be active. So this type of cookie is called as a non-persistent cookie. It's a non-persistent cookie, right? Whose life cycle is till the browser is open. So this is a cookie assignment. Let's see how we can actually consume it. So let me go to code view. Now in my page load, what I'll do, I'll have to read the cookie. Now how can I read the cookie? Because here, how I'm getting is whatever request is coming over here, right? I'm actually reading that cookie. I'll have to read that cookie. So let me create a HTTP cookie. Let me call it as request cookie, whatever I'm getting is equal to. So I'll be getting the object of cookie, whatever I'm sending from response. So from that response to this page, it will come to my HTTP request, which is my request class. You can see this is a property of my HTTP request. Dot, you have something called cookies. Oh, now here you can give, either you can give index if you know at which position the cookie is, otherwise you can give the name. Now the name of cookie is site, right? Let's do the same name. Which means your cookies are exclusive. So for every website, right? Now this name will be obviously complex. So you can't give this simple names to the cookies because if some other website uses same cookie name, right, then your parameters and everything will be replaced. So that's the reason why the name will be complex. It will be some complex keyword with the date time and the feature and the scope why you are accessing. I mean, it will be combination of things, right? So now with this you will get a cookie. Now how can I read data? So let's say I'm taking it as string. Name is equal to we have request cookie, right? Or you can view the cookie whatever you have. This will give me cookie name and then let's write it down. Response dot right. We are sending it out. So this is your this is how we normally read cookie from our page 1, which is persisted here to page 2. Let's run this and see how it works. Let me rebuild this and let me make it a starter project. Sorry, starter project. So let's rebuild this. Now let's run this project. So here it says object reference not set. So we are reading the right cookie. Here it says no. Oh, we are actually loading directly page 2, right? So that's the reason why whenever it loads page 2, obviously there is no scope of site, right? So that we got this. So what we are going to do here is we'll just check if request cookie is not equal to null, right? If it is not null, then only go ahead and read something. Otherwise, don't do that. So you have this. So now let's make page 1 as active one. So run this page 1. So give some name to text box and click on go to page 2. So when I click on go to page 2, you can see I'm in page 2 and the name got persisted. Right? So this is something which is your cookie data transfer from or across pages, and it will stay. So this will stay across all the pages. So let's take one more page here. Let me take it as one more page as page 3. Right? So even here, let me take the page 2 text tag. This is page 3. Right? And let me go to code and let me write something for it. Let me page 3. Here also I'll read HTTP cookie. So let's say it's CKI. It's equal to you have your request cookies all. Make sure you're giving the right cookie name. And then you have name is equal to CKI. Then request your response write up your here we're going to check. So if CPI is not equal to null, then it will avoid this. Now this is my third page. And what I'm doing is I'm still trying to get whether this cookie is persisted here or not, right, in the same page. That's it. And in page 2, let's create a hyperlink to go to page 3, right? Create a hyperlink, and let's say in this hyperlink we have something called navigate URL, and let's do this. Let's run this and see how it works. So we have a page 1. Okay. Let's give some name. Now click on go to page 2. So we have page 2 ready. Let me click on hyperlink here, page 3. Now you can see you in page 3. We're clicking for persistent. Right? So you quickly persist across the pages, right? And it is the main logic is that you have to read the right cookie, right? And don't rely on cookies more, because let's say I'm copying this URL, right? I'm closing my browser, right? And opening it again, and let me go to this URL, right? So here I can see when I go to page 3 URL, right? Now you can see that it shows on the page 3 because cookies are not there, right? So till the point it came up, the cookie, the cookies went out, right? So which means this is the cookie. For the cookies live fee still, I actually was in when the browser is active, right? The cookie was active. So as soon as I actually went back, closed the browser and opened it again, my cookie actually expired, because the cookie whatever I'm using in my site, the current site is non-persistent. So in that case, you can't rely mostly on cookies, right? Now these are first situation which you have. Now the second situation is that sometimes you may have to do a persist query, right? Or persist uh, cookie to actually save cookies for some days, or right, for some months or so. So in that case, what we have to do is we have to provide some expiry to this cookie. So unless you provide some expiry to this cookie, right, it will just think that the expiry is still your browser session. So here let's see how to create the next type of cookie, which is your persistent query. Right? Now this persistent query is something which normally, even if your page lifecycle is closed and you open it again, your cookie will still be saved in your page session, your client browser, right? So now let's go to page 1. Now when do we have to create? When do we have to give the expiry? While creating your cookie, right? You can actually mention your expiry. So let's go ahead. So these are cookie. So before actually providing any details, let me call as cookie dot. We have property called expiry, get set property. Now here let me add some date time dot now dot, let me add some days, something called some 10 days. Now which means my cookie, this cookie will stay right from today onwards, it will stay till 10 days. Right? So that's the reason why we are giving the date time, till what date and time my cookie should be persistent. This cookie, which means the cookie is site 1 should persist. You still 10 days later, which means let's say today is some first, right? It will stay till 10th of July. That's it. Right? So this, whenever you mention an expiry with the future date, now this is something persistent query and it will stay across. Now let's see how it works. Name here, go to page 2. Now we have page 2, which is a name. Now we have hyperlink, click on this. Now you can see the page. Now let me copy this and let me close this browser. Now I'm using the current browser, which is Internet Explorer, right? I'm using Internet Explorer, so I can't use some other browser. So same browser, I can close. Now you can see no browser is open. Open it again. Right, let me copy that and paste it. Now you can see your cookie is still persisting. Right? Go to page 2. Go to page 2. You can see your page is still, your cookie is still persisting. Why? Because we gave some time to get our cookie expired. So it will be saved in your in your client browser, right? But if it all depends again, right? We are giving some expiry, but if user manually deletes all the cookies, right, then obviously it's going to go. Now let's do that. So in we know how to delete a cookie, right? You can go to tools and internet options, and you have a delete option. So delete, click on this. Now you have cookies. Let's say I want to delete only cookies, right? So whatever cookies I've saved, I want to delete. So let me delete. Right, now let's go to this, and so here what I'm going to do, copy this, now finish deleting, close it up, open this. Right, so here you can see it should be deleted. Sometimes this cookie, it will be deleted. Right, the cookie will be deleted, and once your cookies are deleted, then there is no meaning that you will be getting your data. Fine. Same way in your browser, if you want to disable your cookie, right? Now you have for your development, right? For web design development, most of the time you will be using some often called developer tools, right? I think we have already seen this. Now this will actually give different options while developing. Let's say you want to go to some you can see here. This is my div. I can see this is my simple text I have. Let's type this, and you can give you all the details of this particular container or this particular div and the page, right? And in real time, you can actually change something if you want. Let's say this is a page 3, right? Let's say I'm gonna write this 3 and checking this, right? So this developer tool will actually now it won't edit complete your code, but during runtime, right, you can actually check how it is working. That's the reason why how we have a developer. So in here you can go to cache and you have something called disable cookies. For the current session, if you want, you can always disable cookies, right? And let's say I'm refreshing it now. You can see as soon as you disable the cookies, right, your cookie is not available anyway any more, right? Which means your cookies are you can see already disabled, right? Won't be used to the cookies won't be available. So that's how you can actually check whether your cookies are enabled or disabled, or you can check the data as a persistent way or non-persistent way in your cookies. Okay? So this is a developer tool, and this is how you can actually use. Now the cache is nothing but a browser cache. I mean things whatever your browser is saving while running Adobe Flash or or something, right? If it is eating up your cache, right? Make sure you actually keep cleaning so that your browser will actually become faster. Either you can clean cache for component browser or for this domain itself. If you feel that this domain is taking more cache than permitted, then you can always delete this cache for this domain. Right? So this is something which is your cookies and how it works and how it actually gets expires and how we can actually disable, right? And all. Now here in any browser, right, if you want to check, now we were discussing that if a browser doesn't have cookie, what does it mean? Which means that if it doesn't have cookie or have account are not using, both are, same. So if you are checking for the browser cookie whether it is there or not, right, then you have an option here that you have a request. So it is request something called cookies dot. So we have something, not request of cookies, we have request browser dot cookies. Yes. Now it's using it gets a value indicating whether browser supports cookies or not. Right? Now this will support whether you will have a cookie or not. Now if you have a cookie, then I think you can try this. Right? So this is important. Now this will actually give you whether your browser supports, which means even if you disable your cookie, right, which means your browser, I mean at that moment of time your browser is not supporting cookies. Now, I mean in parallel it will actually, it will go with, so if only cookie is supported then it will add, otherwise it will not add. As simple as that. Fine. But what happens is now you can see as of my common page, cookies are disabled, right? Let me copy this, close it up and open this browser. So let me copy this. So now here, go to cache, you can see, you'll actually get it as so click it again. So now this is, you have enabled again. Now you can see as soon as we enable, as the cookie was in cache, right, was already saved. Now that cookie will be enabled and now you are able to get the data from it, right? So this sometimes you may not be able to enable and disable from here because sometimes the browser may not respond to disable enable. Now at that time you can always go to internal options here and you have privacy. In privacy, I think we have privacy. So in privacy, you can go to maybe. Yes, this is the one. Right? You can see override cookie handling. Normally it accepts all the cookies. If you want to disable it, right, you can actually say prompt. Prompt will every time will ask you, user is seeking for access, then you can actually have or block. Completely block now, which means completely block in the sense you're actually completely surpassing your cookie safe, right? So that's how your cookie works in different cases, right? And you can check your browser cookie which is enabled. So this is something which is a cookie, and internally when we say session uses cookies, right, or your application state uses, it is irrespective of the sessions and all, which means yes, it is true that your session will be saved at server side, but your session IDs and different stuffs will be saved at right, so saved at your cookies, right, so that you can actually use them and persist the data. Fine. So this is about cookies, and cookies will stay across. This is common across all the pages. There is no expiry until unless you provide expiry. Right? The cookie will be persisted across all the pages in your application. Right. So this is about cookies we have. So any questions in this? Anyways, I think this is a straightforward concept which we have. Now let's go to the next one, which is very important to me, exception handling. Exception handling in ASP.NET. Now, is it different from the exception handling which we have learned? Right? No, it is not different, but ASP.NET have got few more ways to handle exception, few more disciplined ways, I would say. At one centric point or at one centric page, you can actually where you have more features. If you have any exception at page level, you can handle, or if you have any exception across the application, you can handle, or if you have any exception at a method level, and if you want to use a structured error handling type, which is try catch or not, you can also handle that. Fine. So first, let's see how, if any exception happens, how does a page respond. Let's create the form. Let me call it as page 4. right? And let's say I have page 4. Let me go to view code, right? And here, what I'll do, I'll first take int x is equal to 0 and int y is equal to some 25. I'm just making sure that we are actually trying to handle this. Now, first, let's say I'm writing a simple code, right? So now let's run this and see how it works. I think when I run this, it will go to page 1 maybe. So let's make this page 4.js page. Now you can see we have attribute 0, and once you deploy, you will get this. Let me close this Java2. Now you will get this velocity rating, right? Now you can see it gives you attempted 2 divided by 0, and no client would like to see this page, right? Obviously, this page conveys that your site is not handling all type of, right, which is not good. Now, first let's see how to handle exceptions uh, uh, through a structured error handling. Now, what is structured error handling? A try catch is nothing but a structured error handling. Let's say I have a try catch here, and I'm gonna add this piece of code to try catch. Now, what you can do, you can actually write console dot have exception. Right? And once it is done, let's see. So now let's run this. Oh, E is already fine. It's fine. Let's take E1 here. Leaving this. It succeeded. Now run this. So here it's page 4. Whenever I go to page 4, you have an issue, right? And we are actually writing it up. So let's open up. And I hope we have written something called console, right? So let's sort that. Just mouse. We are not doing any console operation, right? So let's run this. Now we have this error, right? Automated. So here we are actually printing this on a plain web page, but normally what happens is whenever you're finding the exception, right, you may want to route it to some page, right, or you may want to route it to somewhere where you want to show this. Now still you can see this is a page 4 itself. We're not going anywhere, right? So let's do one thing. Let's do a formal exception handling here. Now how? Let me create a single form. Let's call it as error.jspx. Now here let's do one thing. Let's say this is error page. Right? We're just saying that this is an error page, and we'll see how it's getting work. Now here, whenever we have an exception, what we're doing, let's say we are writing it. So before After that, let's say you have a response or redirect. I want to redirect to uh, my error page, which is error.aspx. Now let's see how it's on this. Now you can see it got redirected to error.aspx and this error page. Right? Now here you can see this is something which is a structured way of handling an exception. Right? If you want to handle specific exception, you can actually do that. Right? Now here, let's say this is one method, right, or one event, whatever it is, and we are handling this in one event. And what happens if I have 100 of events or 100 of methods? I can't go each and every method and say that you have to try catch and you have to, whenever exception happens, do this. So instead of that, we have something called page error. Right? We have three different ways. That's what we were discussing. One is your structured way, you have page error, and you have application. Right? So these are the three different ways how you can actually add. Now structured way is something where you are actually putting up your try catch and whatever you call. Now this try catch acts, behaves in the same way which you have seen in our SreeHub.net. Right? All classes will be sent to all exceptions. Whatever you have right here will be actually redirected. Now here I can't actually write the same structure in every method. Right? Now let's say I'm actually concerned more about this page only. Then we have something called page error event. Right? So if you go to view, you have some. Let's go to this view component designer. I think I've already shown this to you guys. In component designer, if you go to events, now you can see there is an event called error for your page. Double click on this. You have page for this error. Let's make it as page error so that it will be directly overridden from you. Right, so this will be triggered if you have any exception. So now let me do one thing. Let's write everything in page error, and I'm not going to handle any structure error. Let's see. Now let's have this. We missed anything? Okay. Don't worry about this message. We'll get back to this message. Now here I am in page 4.aspx. You can see I got an error. Right? Let me put a breakpoint in page error. And this now you can see as soon as I get any error, right, as I'm not handling anything, immediately, right, it will come to my page on this code. Why? Because these methods are registered with my page. If any exception happens in my page code, it will directly redirect to page here. And this page is calling your page event. Well, that's the reason why it is triggered, and now it is going towards it. So this happens with every event. Now we have seen only with the page load, right? It happens in every event and every method. Whenever you get an exception, it will be directly redirect to your error page. Now here this is error page where you can actually show, if you want to show all the errors, right? You can actually show. Now here, sometimes if this is like admin page, some exception happened in your website. Please contact admin. I mean, you can give all details as such. This is error page. That sort of error page. So now here, what you have is, let's say you got an exception and you want to show that. So you can go to page, error page. Let's say, let's try to access that error. Now you have an exception class because whatever exception happens, it will actually save in your server. You have something called get last error, right? And let's write it. We have something called response write of your exception ex.exception. So I'm just writing whatever error we have got, right? I'm just writing it over. Now your error will be actually saved. Now this is running in your instance. Now you got this error. Run this. Now you can again see that no, we actually came to some other page. Right? We came across different page here. Now that's the reason why when you try to access your error, right, error which is last out, right, in the same machine, it will actually give you no, because the scope have actually changed to something else, right? So in this case, what you can do is this error has to be handled directly in your page 4, wherever you're handling. Now let's say, let me just take this. Now let me put a breakpoint. I got an error on this, you get here. Now here you can see I have an exception. You can see here it says attempted to web zero, where I'm actually writing, okay, this is a message I'm actually getting, right? And then I'm redirecting, because what I'll be doing here is I don't want to show it on the page, but what I'll do, so maybe at this point I'll log it into the database or files or wherever your admin is looking into the errors, right? I'll log it here, right? And then when I run this, it will be redirected to the page that says please contact. So this is how we handle page level errors. Now let's say there is no exception handling again, which is no page. Right, which means again it will go to LOCD. So for that, in that situation, what we can do, we can have a third type of error called application error. Now this is common for all the pages in application, even if any number of pages, any number of pages, any number of directories, any number of internal files you have, right? Your application error will be common for all. Now let's see how to create application error. Now we already seen this part. If you remember, in our application events part, right? You have seen that we can create a global class file. Let me create a new item here. That means at web, and you have something called global application class. Enter. Now you can see here you have something called application error. Now this is already registered with HTTP application. So in current application, anywhere your exception happens, it will directly redirect to your application. Right? Now here you can actually write your response redirect. Let's say I'm going to redirect it to your error. Right? So here I'm actually trying to redirect over here. So let's put a breakpoint here. Right? So we are in page 4, right? And we know that we are going to get some error over here. And let's see how it works. So let me run this. So let me close this error. Now we got an error. Run this. Now you can see immediately your application error will be. Now if you run it. So this is how your page level exception or your application level exception will be handled. Now again, in your application or page, you have to handle something. If you don't handle any exception or redirect it to any page, right? Again, it doesn't matter whether you're actually going for application or anything, it doesn't matter, but it will give you error out page. Now let me show you that. Now let's say here I'm actually taking some string, index is equal to some message, and I have breakpoint. I don't have this. Just to show that your message is coming here. Right? Now here anyways in page 4, we are not doing anything. We are not handling or redirecting anything, right? So here you can see. So you got an error. So run it. You can see that you got it to application error. Run it again. Now you can see we got an error page because we are handling error, but we are not redirecting to the correct resource. right? Which means it doesn't have any other choice. Rather, it will redirect you to the error page, or it will actually load the complete page. Fine. So this is how you have to handle error at least one place. Now, even if you have page 4, let's say I will implement it, right? You have your page error, you are writing something, you get last error and everything. Run this. You put a breakpoint here, and also let me put a breakpoint here also, right? And run this. So it will give me some error. Right, you got an error here, you can see, document error 0, run this. Now you can see you got it in page error, right, where you are actually handling your error to log in database. Run this. Now you got an application. Here, you are getting some error in application. Right? Now, in both the page error and application error, you are not redirecting or handling or redirecting this request to some other resource. That's the reason why it will give you an error. When you are redirecting or submitting your page or redirecting your current error to new page is very important. So this is about your exception handling which you have, right? So you have your a structured one we say, which is like basic try catch which you have, and in try catch it will give you support for all the types. It can be try catch or try catch a specific exception, right? Try catch of all types. You can actually use it, right? And it is very important to handle either a page error or an application error and make sure you are redirecting to right resource whenever there is an error. So it's always better, based on your requirement, you can actually handle whether to page error or OKR. If you handle anything on page error, now this is the first event which will be triggered in your page. In your page, if you handle page error, so that event will be the first error which will be triggered, and after this your application error will be triggered. But if you're not redirecting anything on page 4, then it is for sure that it will be error bouncing next time, right? But at somewhere you have to handle error, saying that some exception happened and it has to be triggered, right? So this is your error part which you can read. But there is one more very important thing which you have to understand here. Whenever any page error happens, right, you are reading it. You are reading your error, and you are actually, when I say response right, which means you are logging it in your, let's say, database or a file, let's say, right? Now, after your reading, you always should clean your errors. So that you can do using your server. You have something called error clean or clear error. Sorry, you have something called clear error. Now what it will do, it will actually save one instance of errors for your session, right? So everything, once you handle it and log it up and it's done, it will be cleared out, right? And it will be cleared out from server so that next time whenever any error happens, right, that will be taken care as the last error and you can actually log it. So this is the exception handling part and the cookies which we have in ASP.NET. Fine. So any question?